Israel on Saturday finally punished Iran for firing 181 missiles at it 4 weeks ago. Israel sent warplanes to bomb Iranian missile sites and also anti-aircraft and missile defences, including in the capital, Tehran. Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of The Australian. Greg, great to see you. But where is this war going?
Well, Andrew, Israel certainly acted with extraordinary restraint. Now, maybe that restraint was imposed on them by the Americans. On the other hand, I think Israel has its own reasons for acting methodically in the way it has. It has destroyed a good number of Iranian air defences, which means if it needs to take another action against Iran anytime soon, there's less chance of an Israeli plane being shot down. It's also destroyed Iranian missile and weapons manufacturing facilities. That's very important. The other thing is Israel still is cleaning up in Gaza, and it's still fighting in Lebanon. And even Israel, even with American logistic support, you know, there's a limit to how much its armed forces can do all at once. Now, whether Iran forces Israel to take another strike, I don't know. On the other hand, you can say the Americans and the Israelis have missed an opportunity because Iran is getting very close to a nuclear weapon. And if the Americans had helped the Israelis, they would together have been able to take out those nuclear facilities very substantially. The Israelis, I don't think, can do that on their own. But this remains a very open conflict, could go in all kinds of different ways.
I can't help but agree with you, I'm afraid. That nuclear project of Iran needs to be dealt with, and this was a golden opportunity if America had just come to the party. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, who looks likely to win next week's presidential elections, just held a monster rally in New York. 75,000 people supposedly trying to get in to Madison Square Gardens. He told the crowd he wants America out of fighting wars. Here he is.
Many, many people with no legs and no arms, all because of incompetent people. But we don't want your sons and daughters to get a little draft notice and you have to explain to them what it means. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war.
He indicated he wants to cut off support to Ukraine, which will be a disaster. But this whole, no wars anywhere thing sounds nice. How's it going to actually work out? How's it going to affect the world if he wins?
Well, it's genuinely very unclear again, Andrew. I mean, it does point up, just incidentally, the utter folly of the Albanese government and the 10 years of coalition government beyond that in producing no effective Australian defence, because the Americans have shown they'll help an ally who will fight for themselves with supplies and everything, but they are getting reluctant to do the fighting themselves anymore. There's a measure of justice in what Trump says, that Biden's weakness has encouraged the aggression of the Taliban and of the Russians and of the Iranians. They have all deterred Biden. Biden has not deterred any of them. There's some truth in what Trump says. But if Trump himself convinces all American adversaries that there's no circumstances under which he will fight, he will lose the leverage he had in his first term. I mean, people were scared of Trump. America's enemies were scared of Trump. So were America's allies half the time. But that was part of the way he managed the global security environment. It wasn't very pretty, but it was reasonably effective. If he gives a sort of ironclad promise, we're never going to fight again, I don't like that. But on the other hand, you can't take anything Trump says to the bank. So what he actually does when he gets into office, I don't think will be bound by what he said at this Madison Square Garden rally.
You've made such a good point about that. It was the fear of what Trump might do. And if he starts taking war off the table, that fear dissipates with people that really need to be scared. And that is particularly true when you meanwhile got this new alliance of tyrannies. Greg, you've written about this. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all helping out each other with their wars. Russia, Iran, China last week also holding their so-called BRICS summit to encourage other countries to help create a new world order where they're boss and not America. What shocked many, it certainly shocked me, Greg, was the United Nations Secretary General, the socialist Antonio Guterres. He actually went there. He shook the hand of Russia's Vladimir Putin, a war criminal, and even bowed to him, and then hugged the dictator of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, who's been Russia's ally in the invasion of Ukraine. Greg, the United Nations has utterly shamed itself, hasn't it?
Yeah, you're dead right, Andrew. A couple of real quick points. One is this China, Russia, Iran, North Korea alliance. You know, DFAT and the foreign policy professionals and so on were always at pains to say they cooperate a bit, they're not real allies. Well, North Korea has now sent thousands of troops to Russia, presumably to be used in Ukraine. They all supply each other weapons. They all help each other get round all Western imposed sanctions, and they protect each other at the United Nations. So I don't know how much more they could do. That is an alliance, and that is a terrifying development, and again just shows up the madness of our not having any defence capability. Your point about the UN is absolutely right. Guterres, I tell you what, he is the best argument possible that we should have supported Kevin Rudd as Secretary General of the United Nations. This guy is an absolute shocker. He didn't visit Israel to express solidarity after that terror attack, and he hasn't had a kind word to say about Israel in any circumstances whatsoever. But there is Vladimir Putin, justly under indictment in the International Criminal Court as a war criminal, which is what he is, and there is Guterres going to pay homage to him because he wants to show how even-handed he is between the United States and Russia. I would rather have a straightforward left-wing, third world guy than Guterres. I think he may well be the worst Secretary General of the United Nations, for many, many decades, and he's just robbed the United Nations of all credibility. And again, the Albanese government puts so much of its foreign policy faith in the United Nations. We get to be the deputy chair of the Pots and Pans Committee or something in exchange for selling out Israel, and they think that's a good deal.